So next slide. Yeah. Are you able to see my slide?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Now we'll start today's afternoon session. Good afternoon, good afternoon to one and all. I, Dr. R.H. Radgat, welcome you all in today's afternoon session of 1 week faculty development program on 3D printing and design, organized by Department of Mechanical Engineering, Vision College of Engineering and Technology, Bhilai, sponsored and funded by AICT under AICT Training and Learning, ATAL Academy. Today's invited speaker for this session is Dr. Subburaj Kurupasamy from Singapore University of Technology and Design, Singapore. It's our honor and privilege to have Dr. Subburaj Kurupasamy from with us, who will deliver a talk on design for healthcare innovation. Now I would like to give a brief introduction of our today's speaker. Dr. Subburaj Kurupasamy is an assistant professor and the lead for the healthcare engineering and design track in the engineering product development pillar at Singapore University of Technology and Design. He directs the medical engineering and design laboratory and interdisciplinary research group specializing in designing and developing medical devices, medical imaging and image analysis methods, and computing tools for diagnosing, treating, and potentially preventing musculoskeletal disorders and disabilities. At SUTD, he has designed and developed a medtech industry focused course on healthcare product design that merges industry, education, and research to train and provide opportunities for design students a real immersive learning experience to working directly with end users and come up with innovative design solution for real life unmet clinical needs. His research resulted in 5 patents, 5 books, 60 peer-reviewed clinical and technical articles in highly referred international journals, and 80 international conferences, articles, and presentations. He received his PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and postdoctoral research training in the musculoskeletal quantitative imaging research (MQIR) laboratory, Department of Radiology and Biomedical Imaging at the University of California, San Francisco. We are very fortunate to have such an eminent personality with us. Thank you, sir, for joining with us. Now I would like to hand over this session to Dr. Subburaj, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thanks for having me. So I know that, okay, this is a kind of like I'm occupying your lunch session. So, okay, so I'll go over the talk what I prepared for it. Okay, so the content is a design thinking for healthcare innovations. So the kind of the research what we focus on is like we ask the question is that how can we better understand who our parents are? I mean, parents in the sense that our patients are, and then design the entire ecosystem. That means we're not only designing the product, but we also design the process and the service to deliver the better care. That is our main research theme. So if you look into this one, is that first we try to understand who our patients are, because that is significant problem, significant importance for us, because otherwise who's going to pay us, because we can develop a product or anything, but who will be paying us? Is the patient is going to pay, or the kid's going to pay, or the insurance is going to pay? So who will be paying that one? So that is the reason that we wanted to understand who our patients are and what are their needs, and then try to develop the system, not just at the design of the products, but we look around like, okay, what else we need it? Because if we develop the product alone, will it survive in the market? Can we develop like a service ecosystem around it to make sure that, okay, it is delivered, it reaches the patient? So that is our entire research theme of my research. That's what we work on. So I kind of like a grouped entire my research work into like a kind of age-related fragility. That is about like looking into how the aging affects the bone related diseases. So that is what my focus is on. It's like whether it affects your walking pattern, whether it affects your bone fractures, everything we wanted it to study. So we look into multiple domains of data, that's like medical images, sensors, and we also look into the blood-based markers, urine-based markers, saliva, everything we look at it. Okay, so that is like we are looking for opportunity screening in the sense that we don't purposefully acquire the data for research, but we will take the data which is acquired for a clinical purpose, and then we try to extract as much as information as possible so we can give additional information. For example, if you are going for a tummy pain and then the doctor scanned you with the CT data, we will take the CT data, we will assess for like do you have any issue with your bone? Do you have any issue with your fat depositions? Do you have an issue for sarcopenia, whether the muscle is like a degrading? So everything we can try to extract from the simple CT data alone, we will try to do it. And then if you are giving a sample for blood, instead of in addition to what is the purpose you give the blood, we'll also look for okay, additional things. Okay, what else is missing? Okay, is there something has gone wrong? So we look into that one. So we try to maximize whatever the data we are collecting for the clinical purpose, and then we take it further. Okay, so that is where we apply all design thinking to study that, okay, what additional service or what additional value proposition we can provide to the patients. That is what we look for it. And in addition to that, it is not just about what you do in the clinic matters. It is also about what you do in the community matters. That's where we come into the perspective of social support, because we see like the world is aging and people are getting old and people are moving around. If you look into the young generations, they move around a lot. It means like as soon as they study, do their undergraduate studies, and then they move to the city. What about the parents? They are living alone. So it means there need to be a community support needed for them to survive. If there is something emergency, who is going to help them? We cannot always call 911 or 99 or whatever 101, so that is not always the solution. So the neighbors could be the best help they can provide it. So how do you design the system? How do you change the attitude towards the healthcare in the sense that only clinicians or the doctors provide, but everyone can pitch in? So we try to bring that perspective, and then we develop the devices, either medical devices or monitoring devices, how to make the people more active, so that like, okay, they can be healthy when they are elderly, aged, still they can be much more healthy, active, they can support themselves. So we bring in the perspective that what kind of activities they can do, they cannot do, what they should do to improve the particular type of muscles. So that is what we study here using the design. The design as a major theme, and then we look around. So in terms of, if you look into the sustainable development goal of the United Nations, so we try to fulfill these categories like, okay, third, the good health and well-beings, and innovations and infrastructure development, and the life on learned is a sustainable and you can work on, and sustainable community building. So this is the goal we attacked from my research. And the learning objectives, what I developed for today's session is about, by the end of the session, you'll be able to understand the different phases of the design thinking process. So they you empathize with the end users, and you define the problem, and then you ideate a solution, brainstorm the solution, narrow down the 1 or 2 design solutions, and you prototype it out and test it at the end of the day. Okay, so that different phases of the things, I will give a real examples to showcase that, okay, how we did it, how you can also apply in your practice or in your teachings, you can do that. Okay, even though design thinking can be applied to anything. It could be applied to product designs, it could be applied to service design, process design, even your day-to-day life. If you wanted it to change it, you can apply design thinking. But I will be going through the process from the perspective of the product design. Okay, and you will also understand the strategies that we use it to translate what is unmet clinical needs to an engineering problem, so we can propose a proper design solutions to solve the particular problem, because we bring 2 different domains. So instead of solving like a mix and match, we just like remove the human element in it, we bring it into an engineering solution and we solve it, and then we take it back to the clinical one. Okay, this is how we bring it out. And then how do we apply the fundamental engineering design principles? Sorry, yeah. Sorry, today is a Saturday, so the family needs comes. Yes, okay, yeah. Okay, ma, thank you. Okay, bye. So how do we apply the fundamental design principles to create a new product to solve the clinical problem also you'll go through, because I can see that most of you are coming from the engineering background. So you will appreciate that, okay, how the engineering design principles, what we learn can be applied to develop the clinical solutions, So even though we think that, okay, clinical means like, okay, let's go into the medical one, there are principles, but of course, what we learn in an engineering domain is definitely helpful to solve the problem. So if you look into that, what is the driver towards the healthcare innovation? What drives, in the sense that this is the kind of a things I put it in as called as a pulse. That is the heart of the innovation it goes in. One is it about the poverty. Poverty, we can think it as a negative one. In my perspective, I look at like, okay, how do we make the device affordable to everyone? So it is an opportunity to design a simplest solution so people can afford the solution. That's what we look at. And urbanization, in the sense that people's lifestyle is changing. If you look into the data, the obesity rates is like a really increasing because people are eating like a fast food, McDonald's, KFCs, everything. People's food culture changed and people are becoming less mobile. It means they are very sedentary, sitting home, watching YouTube or Netflix, sitting at home, So the food culture plus activities, everything is affected by the urbanization. So how do we challenge, take that challenge, propose a solution to make the people more healthy? So that is also taken care of in the lifestyle session one, okay? So then comes into the aging problem, it comes in. So even though in India, we have like a close to 40%, we are less than 30 to 35 years old, but still we have a substantial portion who's beyond 50 plus. So it means the healthcare system is going to get overloaded. The same is happening here in Singapore as well. So how are we going to take care of our elderly? So these are the driving factors towards the innovations. Okay, what are the innovations we need to look at it? What is the industry potential? What is the market potential is available so we can monetize it as well, because this is called silver economy. So can we tap into that one? So if I put it into simple statistics to support the points what I mentioned earlier, like almost 13.5% of the people in Southern Asia, they kind of like live in extreme poverty. That is like a $2 around like in Indian rupees, like around 100 to 120 rupees. It's per day as per the World Health Study. So it means like we need to look at the solutions which are affordable by this population. So that is significant. You cannot design something which is extremely pricey. So what are they going to do? These kind of populations, So then the urbanization, if you look into 40.7% of Indian population will live in urban cities by 2030. We are like less than 9 years away from it. So it means you can imagine now it's a 1.2 billion our population, means close to half a billion people will be living in cities. That's like a huge chunk. Okay, so we need to look into that, how it is going to affect the health. In Singapore, we are almost 100% live in an urban society because very highly dense urban population in Southern Asia, almost Asia, we can say that. Okay, except Bangladesh. Okay, so when I look into how the lifestyle affected, in the sense that it comes into the perspective, that multiple perspective, like a cardiovascular, that's like related to anything to heart, then cancers because of the pollution related issues, and respiratory diseases, smoking, air inhalation, polluted air, then of course stroke because of obesities, everything it comes into play, and diabetes. We are seeing like even a very lean person's getting diabetes. We don't know the reason because of the fatty liver and multiple reasons. So these all affects, and these are the points which drives us, okay, what kind of a solutions we look for. And what comes into for the Singapore point of view is like almost 1 in 5 residents will be aged 65 plus, which is a 20% of the entire population. We are just a 6 million people. Out of that, 20% means like a million plus will be like above 65. They are out of the market. They are jobless. So the medical cost is going to go up. So it is a very significant ones that we need to provide solutions for this kind of purpose. So as I explained earlier, this is a kind of like an interleaved problem that it presents as opportunity. There are multiple stakeholders. I mean, it's the patient themselves and the kids. They wanted to move out, but the parents will be alone, so they are stuck. And then the government has to provide the service. The healthcare system is going to go overloaded, but at the same time, what is the opportunity available for others to also like move up in the ladder? Okay, we can increase the retirement age, but what will happen to the young one? They cannot get the job. So it is a really wicked problem to solve. So to solve that one, we need to bring it into a completely new perspective. We cannot solve the same way what we have been solving the problems or any engineering solutions what we provide it out. So we need to think completely different way, because these most of the problems are we created it. They are not naturally occurring. So we created the problem. So we must find the solutions. So that is where it comes into the design thinking. So design thinking is a kind of a way that we can practically, it's a practical and it's a systematic, and then it's a strategic way of solving, like taking into consideration of multiple stakeholders, and then come up with the solution is acceptable to everyone. Everyone will be compromised. It's a lose-lose scenario. It is not a win-win for everyone, but it's a lose-lose. It means I give up something, you give up something, but we will come into the point that where everyone agrees to particular solutions. So I like this quote. It's like it says, okay, there exists a designerly way of thinking and communicating that is both different from science and scholarly way of thinking and communication, but it is as powerful as the scholarly methods of inquiry. So it means like it is also kind of a research work, what we can do. So instead of thinking that, okay, design thinking, it's a really a crazy one, can we put it into simpler words in the sense that you empathize with the end user? It means you put yourself into the end user, that okay, why they face a problem, what kind of a challenges they face it, why they think this is a really important problem. And then you understand that what do they want? What do they really want? If you provide a solution, will they accept it? That kind of a question. And then bring in a multidisciplinary teams to solve the problem. And then rather than like, okay, try to model it out, do many things, can you just prototype it quickly and then get a quick feedback? So you will have much more solutions. You can derive it into you can converge it into the position that you can bring it to a really actionable item. That's like action oriented, fail early and often prototyping, and then get the feedback. And of course, at the end of it, you can design something, but it's going to sit on the kind of like a store or in a workshop. No one is going to use it. Then it's a waste of everyone's time, effort, money, resources, whatever you spend on, and your thinking process as well. So you need to look for it, whether the solution what you come up with, is it business viable? Is it a market desire the particular solution? Do you have a product market fit to the particular solutions? So you can actually see the product reaching the hands of the end user. So that is also the part of the design thinking process. So I have a framework. This is the framework which I use it in my research. I categorize them into 3 different sections called identifying and ideating and then implementing it out. Okay. So the ideation session is about like we do primary research, that we interview, we immerse ourselves into the end user's perspective or end user's environment to understand that what they face and everything. And then we define. So because we need to identify the stakeholders and we also understand them, that is the significant portion of it. And then we come into that one that gives a kind of like a broader picture. And we also look into the literature to bring out secondary research. And then we come into here the ideation session where we bring in a different design methods. It could be participatory, co-designs. We bring in different disciplinary people to collaborate with and then we bring it out like, okay, where our solution space exists. Whether it is a cost-effective solutions or we are looking for a people, we are designing for something to the people who are not price sensitive, in the sense that you can design whatever the high tech you can design, they will pay for it. So those kind of questions will come and then we ideate it up, we generate and we evaluate whatever the concepts we come across. And then we narrow down to 1 solution or 2 solutions or 3, it depends on it. Sometimes we are unable to converge it into 1 solution. We'll take 3 solutions and we take it further and then try to see like in between, can we merge into form of one unique solution. Once we have it out, we prototype it out, we take like a multi-pronged approach rather than just tagging into everything. We don't put everything into one basket, but we take a multi-pronged approach, as I explained, like 3 or 4 solutions, we go further and then merge it out, test it, verify it, and consolidate at the end of the day. So that is where we develop like, okay, our technical feasibility is done. And then do we have a viable business opportunity? So the process always end up with the business plan and functionally working prototype. That means we know that there is a market. We know someone will pay for the solutions and we have it technically, we proven design solution, we have it. So now it is to take it further, it need to translate it into go for a design for manufacturing or like, okay, how to reduce the features so that we can make it into a minimum viable product to take it into. So every question comes in right after this one. So this is the end of the process. We have a nice business plan and a functionally working prototype. That's where we stop here. Okay. So the design process, what we go through is about like we have like a tons of needs come through, because when we go into with the patients, walk through with them, spend a day with them, everything we do. So we come up with so many needs, and then we funnel it down and target it like 1 or 3 needs. Then we expand it, generate the concepts. Once we have the concept, we short it down to like a 3 or 4 concepts. Then we'll see like, okay, technically, is it feasible? We prototype it out, 3D print it, clay models, everything, cardboard models, anything we do it, make sure that, okay, we can check it, whether the patient will accept the particular one. If it is no, then we'll say like 1 or 2 solutions are ready to go ahead. Then we will say, okay, let's go ahead. This is the simplest way I'm explaining it out. This is like a long process, even though it's look like it's a linear process, like, okay, one after another, but it's like a very adaptive feedback. It's a very iterative process. So it means like there are so many loops in between. Even like a concept generation will come into so many loops will come through. Okay, we design it out in a way that, okay, can we generate concept based on functions alone? Can we merge a couple of functions to generate a concept? So we do go for a multiple different versions, and then we try to merge it out. So it's a kind of iterative process rather than very linear, very straightforward, clean process. It's not a clean process. It's a messy process. Okay, so that is what it comes into the first one. So I will go through with a good example about what I meant in the first one. Okay, so in the design process, always keep in mind that commercialization is necessary. If you have no way of thinking about it, commercialization, there is no way your product will reach the market. So always think about commercialization. So the process begins with a clinical need. It is not about you found a really cool technology and you wanted to contextualize it and solve a problem. That rarely it works. Okay, it rarely works. So you always start with the need. Somebody wants something, somebody is looking for something, so you provide a solution, then they will definitely will buy it. So you always starts with the clinical need. You don't start with the technology. And then the foundation of any innovation starts with a good clinical need. It means it is your job to make sure that the clinical need, what you're trying to solve, it's a good clinical need. So we call them as a pillars, which means we look for, okay, who are the competitors trying to solve the same problem, and what is the market size, how significant the problem is. Is it the clinician who is bringing the problem? Is he the only one who is trying to solve the problem, or everyone is trying to solve the same problem? So then it's a good one. If everyone is attacking in the sense that there is a competition, but if there is no solution available, you'll be the first one to reach the market. That will be very good option. Okay, so you look beyond the technical problem. You look into that one, and who all are the stakeholders? If someone is trying to kill a product if it comes into the market because it would change their way of thinking or the way of processing something. So you need to look for it. Okay, who will come in and try to kill your design? So that is also the part of the process. You look for it. So innovation, it is not just about the technology. It is all about external factor which would come and try to influence your design also must be thought out. So it is the process consists of filtering everything, whatever you are coming up during the ideation phase. So to understand the good clinical need, what do you have to do? Okay, we cannot just ask the people. If you ask them, they will tell you something, but their actual behavior is the one who's going to give you an excellent clue that what is the real need. Okay, it is not just about what they tell you, it is about what you observe. That is where your empathic component comes in. Okay, so Tim Brown is one of the best design thinking theorists. So he provides like multiple theories about design thinking, each and every phase of it. So he says that their actual behavior is the one who's going to provide you a valuable clue than anything they tell you during interview or anything. You observe them. What is their body language? What do they do? Do they hold by left hand? Do they hold by right hand? So what do they do? They do any other actions while they are performing the particular action. When anyone is presenting it out, anyone is helping them. Everything matters when you are observing the end user. So that is how you gather the need. So there are multiple ways to gather it about. One is it about observing them in the user environment. It means like you go and here you can look at the pictures like, okay, there is a customer service representative and you are standing behind them to see like, okay, how they interact with each and every customer who comes through. What do they talk? How do they introduce themselves? How do they ask for it? Okay, do they talk with politeness? To what is that? Everything you observe, you note it down. And then you ask them to document as well. That is one way to opt for self-documentations. And then you can also look for extreme behavior, because some of them would be really good. Some of them would not be. For example, you are bringing a new technology, and then we can ask, like, if I'm bringing a amazing app. If I ask my grandmother to check it out and do that one, that would be, she will come into the extreme user category where she's not much familiar with the technology at all. If I bring in this one and then I ask my student to do it, they are like a tech savvy, crazy student. Yes. They will have a completely different perspective. So they will come into the really high end of the spectrum. My grandmother will come into the low end of the spectrum, but rest of the user will be in the middle end of the spectrum. If you look into the bell curve and the normal distribution curve, they will come into the 3 sigma range. They will come in. Beyond that, if you look at, that is where your extreme users will lie down. Okay, so if you look into plus or minus 3 sigma, they will be in the middle zone. They will be there. Okay, that is your average users. But if you wanted to develop a really innovative product, then you must look into the extreme user ones. They will bring out an amazing need which you haven't even thought about it. Okay, then you look for any analogous scenarios where you can understand the process, and then look for 5 why questions. For example, if I'm telling that, okay, I wanted to buy a wallet with like a 3 flaps, and then if my wife would ask that, okay, why do you want to have a three kind of a flaps? I will tell her that, okay, because like I always face challenge when I try to open the door with my card, because I have so many cards stacked into one flap. She'll ask that, okay, why, how the three flaps would solve the problem? Why do you have so many cards? Then I'll say that because, okay, I need one for card, one for home, one for the main gate to entries, or like one for my lab. So I'll have question, or one for the clinical one, I have it out. So then I said, okay, why they gave you so many cards? Why cannot they give one? So then I have a solution that, okay, can I have only one card where everything can be tagged in? Okay, then what are the risks associated with it? So there are many questions can be asked if you ask like why. So here I'm giving you a simple example. Okay, the problem is like you are going to the court and they're asking that you ran through the red light. Then they ask you why. I'm late for work. Okay, why you late for work? I woke up late. Why you woke up late? Okay, my alarm clock broke. Okay, then have another like why your alarm clock broke? Did you check it? No, I did not check it. I assumed that it works. Okay, so it's a problem in the sense that before you go to bed, you check whether your alarm clock works or not. Simple as that. Okay, so rather than looking into the running through the red light in the sense that you try to find a problem that, okay, can I add something in my camera, or can I add something into my car camera that, okay, it will detect that, okay, there is a red light and it applies the brake. You're trying to complicate the solution. But if you look into this one, simple problem is that you just change your habit. That's it. So you are looking into rather than looking into the symptom of the disease, you are looking into the cause of it. So this is one way we gather the needs when we are going into the clinic. Okay. So, and one more thing is that people always think that, okay, patients cannot be trusted or something, but the data says otherwise. When we look into that one, when we empower the patients, people who have access to their health data, they trust more. Okay, they think that they experience the best care, they received it out. So sometimes this point I'm trying to bring it out in the sense that rather than just to design in your lab and then trying to bring it into the clinic, you work with the patients, you work with the clinician. If you are designing a surgical tools, you work with the clinician who is going to use it. If you are designing something for a patient, you work with the patient from day one to make sure that, okay, they have a stake in your product. So that is one way you empower them, empower the doctor, empower the one that they'll think that, wow, okay, I'm being part of a particular design or a particular product. It's really good. It's going to change their lives. They will help you as much as possible, and they are considered as a key opinion leaders. When you are trying to bring it to the market, they will become your sales personnel. They will talk to their colleague. Okay, can you use this product because I designed it with so and so. So that is where you are coming into empowering them during the early phase of the design itself. In a real life case, I'm going to walk through. I had a patient, the patient with a 4/4 arm amputation. It means like a patient lost arm from the shoulder itself due to osteosarcoma cancer. So he lost when he was like almost 20 years old. Now he's around 45 years old, and he's like a very senior position in a bank. So he uses the prosthesis what he's having currently, that is you can see from the picture. So he's used one of the UK-based company delivers one. This is like a kind of like a literally hanging around like a polio affected arm, because it's like a literally simple hanging, simple hinges. There is a hanging by the thread. It is, and he feels uncomfortable. and it's smelly because it sweats. There is no way it ventilates it out. So when he came to us, he asked that, okay, it should be lightweight so that I can wear it, and it should not sweat at the interface, and it should be aesthetically pleasing because he is a very senior person in the company, and he should be able to lock the elbow in any position he wants it, because as of now, it just literally swings around. He cannot, he just have to hold it by another hand. So what we did in the sense that we walked with him like one whole day. My engineer spent with the person from morning. As soon as he got up from the bed, my engineer was there. And then till he went to bed, he was with him. He observed everything and he talked to him. He asked all the questions possible. He went with him to the meetings in his office. Everything he did. We signed a non-disclosure agreement so that we are, even if we come across any confidential information, we are out, So everything we did, we realize it. He's a frequent air traveler. And also he drives to work with one hand. And also like he doesn't ask like, to put up the process. He puts everything by himself. He doesn't even ask his wife to help. And then wears always a long sleeve white shirt to work. And he attends professional meetings from morning to evening. And he doesn't like everyone to realize that he doesn't have an arm. So he doesn't like sympathy. And he walks every day 5 kilometers. And then he uses the process to support sometimes, like while driving, he uses other prosthetics to put it on the steering wheel to hold it out, so just to support it out so that he can have a balance. And he doesn't want an active process. It means he doesn't want anything to do with the machines or motors or anything. He wanted just the passive one. So that's what we realized it. Then we came back to our blackboard to see like, okay, what we can add it into the existing one. We realize it, okay, cut the no sweat at the interface because that is not the problem he's facing it out. We brought it down to that, okay, it should be cooler, little bit cooler, because we realize it, the current one increases up to 3 point some degrees, it increases. So that is bad. It sweats it out. At the moment you increase the 2 degrees plus, then you will start sweating it out. So it increases more than 3 degrees. So we thought, okay, can we have a little cooler one? Because he's frequent air traveler, he'll have to go through the metal detector. So we'll have to provide the no metallic parts. So he doesn't need to remove it in the security. It's going to be kind of like a sympathy, everything it comes into, he will feed odd. So no metallic parts. And we realize it based on all the action he carried out, he just need to lock into 2 position only. He doesn't need to lock into any degrees he wanted. It only 0 degree and 90 degree only he needs to lock for all the action, what he did in the entire day. And then because he is trying to put the shirt over the prosthesis, we need to have a really polished surface so that the shirt won't get stuck. And also like sometimes like people try to shake his hand, so accidentally touches the prosthetic hand. So as of now, it looks like a really solid one. So we wanted to have a soft texture hand. So even someone accidentally touches, they won't realize it. This is the prosthesis. So you can see here that by going through one day shadowing with them, we completely changed our design requirements here. Okay. So then we decided that, okay, based on this one, can we separate them into a functional element so we can design individually and then we can bring it out, kind of an interface design, because this is a surgical scar. So it means this is not a simple prismatic section, this is a really complex shape. So it has to fit perfectly. So what can we use it to get the surface data as accurate as possible? And it should be lightweight structure. So because it's a very high level amputation, it means like you are going to design the entire arm. It should not come off. So multiple things you need to consider. And then we need to have a self-locking one because he doesn't want it to have any buttons or motors, anything. So he wanted passive. So it will be self-locking mechanisms and soft material for the structural design. So this is we simplified the design into 4 different components so that we can work individually and then bring it together. So I will be bringing the same case to explain the second level one. Okay. So here I'm stopping to showcase that, okay, how we did the identification session. So what is the need? We identified it, how we scrutinized it out, how we went beyond what the patient explained it out to solve it out. Okay, the second session comes into the ideation session. So here also I'm bringing into the point that, okay, when you are ideating yourself, you always make sure that, okay, you can commercialize it. Okay, so I'm emphasizing this point because your product should hit the market. So it's an iterative process. You always keep that, okay, is there anything going to prevent me from applying, so you have to make sure that one happens. And then the winning design, it's not always like a high-tech design. If you look into the Apple's design, it's amazing design, but sometimes you see like a Samsung has some of the best feature or a really advanced feature, very few people would use it. But Apple phones, they will be the second one to bring the technology in. They are not going to invent it out. They will be innovating it out. They will be bringing the technology which is mature, so it doesn't create any issues. And 99% of people would love it and use it. So it's not about you're overcoming the technical challenges, but the commercial hurdle also it is important. Okay, so think about that way. So here I'm just putting it in a way that, okay, why I'm talking about like a concept selection is a very critical one, in the sense that you look at the way he said it. The Roger Martin is, his book is, if you have time, take a look at his book called Design Thinking for Business. He says that instead of choosing one idea at the expense of the another, try to merge from like taking one feature from one idea, another feature from, can you create a new one? Sometimes you will end up with a beautiful idea which you haven't even thought about it. So that is the best way. One of the best quote I have seen. I thought, okay, I will mention it out here. And of course, if you have like enough coffee, enough sugar, caffeine, now we'll invent something, definitely. So this is about generating ideas, so we have our design, our needs. How are we going to solve it out? We already segmented them, decomposed them into functional design. Can we solve individual functions separately? Okay, can I have a simple mechanism? Can I have a ratchet mechanism? Can I have function pulleys? Can I have a long lever mechanism? Something you can think of it, so just to put it out, simple writings, then you can cluster them together to see like what is the commonality between them. Can we work with them? So those kind of ideation session comes in. This is the traditional design metrics when we use it to evaluate the concepts. When we come up with the concepts, and then you evaluate it, which design performs better based on the requirements, what we have based on the needs. So I'm putting it, this is an engineering way what we deal with it. But when it comes into the other one, we have multiple ones. You can look at the additional element which comes in. In addition to like, okay, you are able to meet the need specs, and then whether you're able to technically, you can solve it out. Can you sustain the market by having an IP? Can you clear the regulatory hurdles? Because medical devices, you cannot bring it into the patients without clearing the regulations. If you have a really sophisticated component, you will end up with either class C or class D. That's going to take like years and years of testings and bring it into the market. Can we simplify the design in a way that you will end up in a class A or class B, so you can bring it to the market very quickly? And who is going to pay for it? Reimbursement, whether the insurance would pay for it or the patients can afford and they can pay for it. And what is your business model? Okay, so these are key things while evaluating the design itself. So as that's the reason I was keep mentioning about the commercialization. So you always keep that in mind, that, okay, how am I going to make money out of it so that I can sustain, I can bring the solution to the people. At the same time, we can also make some money out of it. Yes. So that is very important. Yes. So here, if you look at it, these things are out, but you can see like a design 4 and 5, they are not all positives, but they have good elements. Can we merge design 4 and 5 to come up with the one better design? So it's not always about the technical challenges, but it also clears the commercial hurdle, what it takes to the market. Okay, so that is what it comes into the second one, ideation session 1. Now we are coming into the third one, the technical feasibility one. The technical feasibility is in the sense that you'll have to prototype out. You come up with an amazing design and then it looks really cool, but would it work? Would the patient understand that with the design, what you came up with it? Can they visualize it out? Can they give you feedback that, okay, this would work, this, I don't like it, okay, the button should be in somewhere else? Can they give a feedback? No? So it means it's your job to prototype it out as early as possible so that you can get a feedback, you can reframe the problem, you can come up with a reiterative design solution, you can come up with it. Okay, so you can look for some example. I'm putting it out like, okay, there are cases people design it out without thinking much, and then you end up like injuring the patients, retracting the device from the market. This is a hip process is one. So that is the reason that we say that about it's a fail early and often. So it means you will learn. Every time you fail, you learn. Okay, so do rapid prototyping or rapid iteration of ideas, hypotheses, and make the ideas tangible so you can feel the solutions, and follow like a thinking to do. I'm thinking how to do it, instead of like, okay, let's make it out. Let's take atta at home and then make a device out of it. So like when we make a chapati or something, can we make it out? Can we take that one and then like a kind of a design it out? So literally it's a Play-Doh. Yes. So you think about what are the things, or like can I take my kids' toys? Can I do something with it? So think anything, whatever you have it, really low fidelity prototype, but you will feel that, okay, I am able to hold it out here. Okay, if I have a device here, it's not going to work. I cannot see the screen. The font is too small, so many things will come in. So you'll be able to uncover the unforeseen challenges which you have never even thought about it, and unintended consequences also. Suddenly you will realize it, okay, if something comes, it's going to hit me or it's going to injure my finger, something, you will realize it out. So always do like a contextual prototyping in the sense that it should be very intuitive for the end user to give you feedback, and it should be user driven prototyping. I mean, you are designing for somebody else. You are not designing for your own gratitude. So you are designing for somebody else. So it means always keep in mind that somebody else is going to use the product, not you. You might be an amazing engineer, but the thing is that you are not the end user. So you always keep your horses at bay, So you always think that, okay, this is not, I'm not the end user, somebody else is going to be. So you have to keep your biases aside during the prototype. That's where the prototyping helps you to kill some of your biases, kill some of your egos to make sure that you reach one. Okay. So you can see like the way we prototype it out, we prototype everything possibly it come across. We use like a kind of open tools like Arduinos, so Raspberry Pi, and also like a laser cut, like a wooden sheets. We laser cut it out, make it out, review them. We bring in industry expert to help us give a feedback. You can see like a lot of mathematical problem also goes along the parallel. Like when we have to develop a software solutions, we bring in like so many boards together, and then like a kind of like a put it in, okay, how many boards, okay, can we develop the full workflow, entire workflow from the moment patient logs in to exit, what happens, so everything we bring it in, explain it. Okay, so try to prototype as much as possible. Okay, so here I'm giving you an example. I'm sure like at least one of you must have like a dislocated your shoulder, they must have like a really had a bad accident or like walked around, fall down, slip down, dislocated it. I dislocated 3 times. Okay, so where that kind of problem brought it into us, one of a session, one of the clinician brought it in, and then we tried to design a device which is so simple that only nurse can sit there and do it. We don't need a clinicians, So that was our problem. That was our kind of like a value proposition we put it in. So you have a device which safely reduce the dislocated shoulder. It's called for the fall or sports, in order to reduce the number of skilled personnel required to do that one, and also procedural consistency, because every doctor does it in a different way. So we wanted to have the consistency so that we don't get sued. So we kind of like a functionally decomposed it out. We did the similar need one, and then we decomposed it out. The adduction motion in the sense that your arm swings almost 180 degrees. The force required to pull the arm and then put it back is like around 5 to 18 kg force required. And then we need to have like how much force you are applying it out so that the system doesn't apply except for and rip off the arm, So, and it should be portable because it's not going to be, only one place you are taking into the operating theater, it should be do it in an emergency or kind of like A&E sessions, yes. Then user friendly, because these are going to be operated by the nurses, not by the clinician. So in the sense that it should be very user friendly, it should not be too technical. And of course, since it's going to be used by over and over, so it will be disinfectable as well. Sorry. So we came up with the multiple designs, So here you can see like a large section of metallic kind of a rail where it pulls it out. You can see that, but the thing is that this is a huge section. We came up with it. Then we realized that this is too much to do, But we prototype it out. We like a kind of a CAD'd it out, and then we took like a kind of, what is that, crutch, and then we cut it, and then we made it up, because that is the simplest one which we can extend, shorten it out, everything we can do. We can see the prototypes, so many prototypes. We took like aluminum extruded bar, and then we cut it out with a water jet. So it's much easier, and then fabricate it out to see like, okay, where we are going wrong, So look at it, like anything, whatever come across, we can get it out and use it. So this is the kind of like a first iterative design. You can see like a breadboarding, and then we just circuit cut it out in our lab. So many things we can, and then display it out. In the early stage prototype, you look at how crude it looks, So it's not like as polished as the final one it comes in. So, but if you look into the end design, this is our end design. It comes into that, because instead of we realize it out, fixing the things to the table is not going to work out, and like rolling the patient is not going, it's going to be a problem. So we wanted to have the solution which is move around. So very simple solution because it's only 18 kg pulling force is needed. So we designed it this way that we can pull and then it can rotate around by maintaining the contact with the floor. Simple as that. So you can think about the kind of the prototyping process we went through to come to the solution. This is actually, so do it as early as possible. So play around, test it with the healthy users, and then bring it to the patient at the end. Okay. So now I'm coming into the point what I mentioned earlier about the prostheses. Here, this is the process we went through. We scanned the patient because, as I mentioned, the complex surface, and then we captured a proper geometry in our Mimic software. Then once we have it, we process the geometry in a SolidWorks. You can see that. Then we mirrored the arm. Other arm is full arm, pretty good. So we mirrored it out, have a reference. And then from that point, we design it out. Okay, let's have a mesh design. Okay. Here, the point you need to think about in the sense that I'm sure like in the previous sessions, you learned about 3D printing. Our end goal is to use the 3D printing as the final product. So in the sense that we are free from any of the design constraints or manufacturing constraint offered by the traditional manufacturing process, we are out. So we went really crazy in terms of the designing out. If you look into the mesh design, how would you make it in a traditional one? Either you go for a sheet metal and then you make a hole and then kind of like bend it out. Will we get the exact shape we wanted it out? Because of the warping and other things, we might not get to the exact shape. But when we 3D print it out, we'll get what we want exactly. So this is designed for 3D printing. This is not designed for traditional manufacturing. This is a designed for 3D printing. You can see the iterations here also, like, so we had it like a first one, we designed it with a bigger hole because we wanted it to create the temperature controlled environment, cooler one. So we designed it this way, but then we realized it is too bulky and the shirt is kind of like a caving it in that particular point. So then we decided that, okay, can we have like a perforated one, so that is how we came up with it. We tried it with the different 3D printing ones. First, we started with a simple FDM. It didn't work out. Then we moved to nylon HB printers. That's what the final one you can see, like a nylon printers. And then the hand one, we printed it with the case printers. That's much more soft material printer, which we can get it out. So we can get the proper texture, colors, everything. We can tone it down to get it out. So this is the patient who is trying it out. The patient was so cooperative. He used to come to our lab to try it out, give us a feedback. You can see like a lot of markings with a white pen. So he used to say that, okay, this point is pinching. Can you cut it down? Oh, the strap is not in the right place. Can you move the strap up? Because now I feel like it's slipping it down, So it's a user involved design process we went through here. And at the end, we design it out. You can see like in the first step, that first picture, that is his traditional, the current one, what he is using it out. Then our first prototype, you can see like, okay, these are the points. The patient said that, okay, this is kind of like a touching it out, touching my thigh. Can you change it up? Okay, this is too high for my other shoulder. Can you reduce the size by 10%? So everything we are trying to get the feedback, early feedback, because we prototype it out. Even though it's a bulky session, we prototype it out. At the end, this is the final product we designed. And you can see like from behind, you can see like, you don't even know that, okay, he's having a prosthesis, yes. So that is the symmetry. We were able to bring it down with no metal, not even a screw, Everything is designed with the non-metal, everything is plastic material. And you can download the paper. The paper, we published it in a prosthetics and orthotic journal. So you'll be able to download it out online. It's available. So the core point, what I'm trying to bring it out here in the sense that prototype as early as possible so you can get feedback. So if we didn't prototype it out, we thought that, okay, whatever we are coming up with it, the patient will accept it. It's not going to happen. Okay. So as many prototype it out, sometimes like we might have overlooked one of the needs. So that will also come through. So we are ready to change and reframe our design problem as well. So we are open to that one. So that is the best point about it. And of course, you should have a willing end user to do that one. But most of the time they already have a pain point. It means they will work with you. Usually they will work with you to come up with a proper design solution. Okay. So that is where we are coming up with. And then that is where we prove the technical feasibility and manufacturing, prototyping it out, everything, work it out. Okay. So that comes in. But to make sure that you have a proper value proposition when you are developing your business plan, you need to look into that 4 E's, I call them. That is called efficacy, that efficiency, and then the user experience and the economy. These are the 4 E's. This is, I call them as a holy grail of innovation. If you're able to hit all the 4 points, it's very difficult to hit all the 4 points. If you're able to hit all the 4 points, you are in a really good position. You are offering a significant value proposition to the end user. You have a successful in the market. Okay, let me go through one by one quickly. So the efficacy, what I mean in the sense that who all are going to get affected is that the patients, clinicians, and of course insurance industry, because they will be the one who will be paying it out. So what I mean by efficacy in the sense that you are providing a better outcome of the medical interventions, and then you are providing a more complete recovery from that one. It means you are not doing any off-cooked solutions, and you are providing much better outcome than in any of the existing product. And simple way you can put it on, it's much safer, and then it is like a less or no adverse effect is happening because of that one. It means like you have a very good value proposition to the end users and also clinicians. Of course, insurance will be, they will love it because the patient is not going to come back to the regularly clinic. They don't need to pay out much. So you are literally hitting the bullseye, So that is where you are coming into the efficacy point of view. In terms of the efficiency, the sense that you are putting the same or less effort, but you are getting like a much more better desired result. You are getting it out, So the efficiency comes into the point here. Mostly the hospital, because they can treat more patients. Insurance, they don't have to pay much. Clinicians, they can treat more patients because it's a consulting based. Every patient you see, you're going to get more paid. So everyone has a stake in it. So they will be the one who will be pitching it for your solution. Okay. Then the experience. The user experience is a very key component of it. Otherwise, the compliance will come into point. You design some processes, and it is kind of like after walking 10 minutes, it's going to pinch somewhere, or otherwise it's a sweaty or anything. The patient is not going to use it. Or you are designing a rehabilitation device. It is so much painful that they don't want to use it. Okay, so you have to think about from the user perspective that what would motivate them. What is the user experience they would have it. Is it could be patient's experience. If the doctor is doing a surgery, instead of like spending like a 10 minutes or 20 minutes to do that one, if he can do it in a 1 minute with the high accuracy, his experience is going to be far more, So these are intangible value proposition you can provide. It's not tangible, but this is intangible ones which can make a monetary benefit you can get out of it. This is a improved clinicians and patients experience. It could be either adaptability, suitability, it could be come back from the reliability, means you can trust that your device would work, guaranteed, So those kind of things are more important. And then economy in the sense that, of course, it's going to be reduced cost for the patients, value for the dollar, and of course, viable business opportunity and the target market. You have all of the stakeholders. It could be patients, clinicians, insurance, and the hospitals. As soon as you provide like a low cost and high quality product, you are in. Okay, so that is what you are looking at here. So these are the 4 things you looked at, but we can talk all about these things, but who's going to design? Who's going to look into this one? So that is where it comes into that. We have a passion for it, but we need engineers, we need medical device designers. So we need to design the workforce also, yes? So that's what I mentioned earlier, that we don't look at only the product, we don't look at only the process, we try to design the entire ecosystem. So it means we need to target the workforce as well. So that is where it comes into the point of view of bringing all the point, and then can we train somebody, So as Dr. mentioned earlier, that I have launched a course, industry integrated course, where I bring in academic, hospital, as well as the industry, medtech industry together to develop like a kind of a workforce who will become the future developers, not me, So I can be there, but the thing is that I wanted to bring more people into the industry so that we can bring in more innovative solutions into the market. So I developed the course to offer the design learning experience to the students. They will become the future medical device designers. So the key banking things I bring it out here is about the 5 components. I bring it out from the learning theories about engaging them, because I'm bringing the real world clinical problem. It means clinicians, they bring the clinical need and I vet them, and then they pitch it to the students and they work with the students. So it means they have an engaging problem. It is not a make-believe problem which they think about it and then the solutions and no one cares about it. This means somebody cares it, somebody is willing to put time to work with them. It means they are really encouraged and they are really engaged with the problem. And then I make sure that whatever the courses they have taken in the previous years, the knowledge could be applicable to solve the problem. Okay, if there is a knowledge gap, I provide the additional reading material or additional sessions to work with them to provide the knowledge. So that is where it comes in. It means students will be able to see that, okay, I studied a fluid mechanics here. Now I can see like a flood flow dynamics. Can I use some of the fluid mechanics principles, what I learned in my term 3? Can I apply to study the rheological properties of the, what is the hemodynamics, So they think about it, okay, I'm going to design and prosthetics. Can I use whatever I studied in mechanics of machines or solid mechanics? Can I apply it? Can I study whatever engineering mechanics, what I study statics and dynamics? Can I apply to develop the something, So always they will be able to relate to what they learned in engineering principles to solve the problem. So it means they would look at the human body as like one of the complex engineering system. So they will be able to relate whatever the principle they learned it, they can leverage it out to find an amazing solutions. And of course, they are integrating the clinical as well as like engineering knowledge to come up with a solution which is valuable, and they are contributing to the society. So these are the motivation factors, because studies have shown that if you are able to change the attitude of the person, you will have a better behavior psychologically. So it means I try to see from the students' perspective that what is their attitude, what is the belief they have it, what is the knowledge they have it, which forms their attitude. Can I tap onto that attitude to come up, bring out a behavior which they will become the best designer possible. They will empathize with the end users, everything, they can do that one. So that is what I try to bring it out here. It's the best learning experience they can have it. So this is the course about, I'm giving you a quick preview about our term is only 12 weeks term. So it means 14 weeks theoretically, but 2 weeks are related to exam. So the first weeks, they go with the clinicians, they work with the patients to empathize with the end users and identify the things. They also understand what is the standards, everything related to the particular uh, problem, but they're solving it out, everything, secondary research, primary research, they do it. Then the 4 weeks, they do ideations, early prototyping, get the feedback and everything, they do it. Then they develop the business plan, feasibility, they try out on mannequins, they try it out in the lab, 3D print, everything, they will do it. And at the end, they will have a technically feasible solutions, plus a business plan, and with a business canvas, they will deliver it to me at the end of the course. To pass the course, they must have a working prototype at the end of the course. And of course, the mentorship provided by me, as well as any other, if something is not in my field of expertise, I will find a faculty to mentor them. And at the same time, clinician is available to mentor them. They must meet with them. So that is how the course structure course is designed in a way. And then we bring in the industry partner at the every 4 weeks, they will come and then we evaluate, they give feedback. The reason I bring the industry in the sense that at the end of the course, some of the industry partners will be willing to take this one and work with us as well as a clinician to take it to the market. So I bring them early stage itself, like a 4 week, from the first 4th week itself. So they understand that, okay, this problem is exist, this bigger market is exist. So let's work with the clinician to bring that one market. So like that, we licensed around 8 patents, we licensed it to the industry from the course itself. So I tried to bring out the research, clinical, and students, education, everything. I brought it into one in 14 weeks time. So it was a successful course so far. We have run 4 years. We have run this year. We have around 50 students, and I have around 24 clinical problems being pitched by the clinicians. So we are now vetting the problems to what kind of problems we should allow to pitch in this year. So you can see like a clinicians, they coming to the class and then pitching it. You can see like some of them are in their clinical attires. They come. The course is designed in a way that it offers during the lunch hours. So the clinicians, they can take during the lunchtime, they can come to the campus, they can pitch it to our students. That's when the students will ask question and they will choose the problem which they allow to work with. And then you can see the teams from 2020 with their clinicians. You can see that there are some awesome students as well. So and then we have every 4 weeks exam. It means there is no written exams. They will pitch it to me as well as the clinician and the industry partners. You can see like a real feedback session is going on during the time. They will develop prototype, they'll explain it to us, and then we critique them, offer like a really constructive criticism to improve the prototypes, multiple prototypes, iterations, everything goes through. And then of course, at the end, we'll offer exhibitions to showcase to the industry. We invite other students, other faculties, everyone who is interested in taking the project further. as well as the clinical partners and industry. We bring them together to exhibit it out. This is also the place students, they get internship, they get job, everything. They will get it out, so you can see here. Okay. So students, they love it. So when I took the survey from the students, said, okay, now I have a better understanding about stakeholders for medical devices, the patients and everything. They strongly agree. It means it is not the perspective of the designer matters. It is the perspective of the stakeholders matters. Now they are able to better engage, because the thing is that working with the clinicians, you need to talk their language, because they will be talking in a different language, because medical terminologies, engineering terminology would match. So here the students are equipped with the skills to talk with them, because they should not be it's a lost in translation between two different domain knowledge. Yes. So that is also key important one. Okay. So the students like it, clinicians love it. Okay. So in summary, the main thing is that the implementation is the key challenge will come through, because what the end user want and what providers and researchers, what we think is a beneficial based on our experience and research, it always creates a contradictory behavior. So it is always, we should keep our mind open to create a balance where it creates the systems or a device, whatever we develop, it is valuable and it is acceptable by the patients. That is what the key is about. The implementation challenge will come through. So, and as I explained it out, like, okay, this is my last session. So I trying to summarize it out, everything, whatever you have learned. So look at the way, what we did it in our prosthetic project is like, we did the data capture. We did a scanning, simple digital scanning, laser scanning. We scanned it out. We also do CT, MR based scanning to develop the medical models. And then we model it out. We prototype it out with the 3D printings. And then we also check for like, is there any high quality printing we needed for the feedback, everything. Then we do verifications in the clinical efficiency, engineering efficiency. Are we providing the value? Are we following any standards required? Everything we look for it. So this is the entire digital design workflow. We have developed it out, which we are implementing it in the clinic now. Okay, so this is for a prosthetics and orthotics one. We are implementing it out and we have framework is ready for it. So if you look into that, how additive manufacturing brought a design impact based on the design thinking principle, when we apply the design thinking principle in the sense that the moment you keep your end users into the bucket, you are giving like a significant value proposition, you are making it out. And also, rather than looking at a 3D printing as the only prototypes, can we develop that as an end use manufacturer, end use device. If you are making something with the 3D printing, can you take that one as an end use device? Means that is the one the patient is going to use it. You are providing like a significant value to it. You must have studied about rapid toolings and manufacturing aids and everything manufactured with 3D printing, but they provide a minimum, kind of like average level of value. But the moment you bring it into the medical domain, you are providing a significant value to the process as well as like your design. It comes, and at the same time, the 3D printing offers like a significant design freedom. It offers, as I explained earlier, kind of the perforated structure, which is very hard to manufacture with the traditional process. But since we freed ourselves from the traditional manufacturing process, we were able to nail it down. It offers us the freedom. Okay, so that is the principles we are deriving that, okay, how additive manufacturing and design thinking can be integrated together to provide the value at the end of it. So instead of looking into simple like a regular procedure, what we will do in the sense that, oh, okay, I have a cool technology, let me look into that. No, we always use inductive approach. It's like a need driven. Okay, what is the best process which can provide value, rather than that, okay, I have a cool 3D printing machine, let me find out something which I can solve with. No. So our drivers are always clinical need and what is the design requirement and where this is going to be getting used and what is the value, cost and value. Sometimes like a 3D printing is going to cost like almost $2,000 to $3,000, which is useless because the patient is not willing to pay for it. Yes. So as I mentioned, that 4 factors, 4 E's: efficacy, efficiency, experience, and then economy. That matters even for a 3D printing. That one, even though we say that okay, 3D printing is much faster and everything, but the cost is also matters, significant matters. So you think about the process, you think about whether the structure is going to be sufficient enough to withstand all the loads or anything abuse is going to go through, whether it offers the property what you want, so that we can look into the functional performance wise and also where this is going to be used. That is also matters. So that will be like, okay, is it going to touch the blood? then how this is going to react. Do you need to do biosafety certifications? Everything, it matters. So before you choose a process, you have to ask all these questions. So you look for the design for additive manufacturing, but at the same time, you need to make sure that it delivers what you want. Okay. So here I'm giving you an example about like how the 3D. Sorry about it. Okay. Yeah. So how the students, my students have used it in a class. One of the teams, like they used it's the same problem given to the two different teams about the spherical robots. One team used to 3D print everything, like you can see like a kind of hemispherical shell, and then the nuts kind of things you can see like the bolt. They also printed it out and then put the spring, and assuming that they can drop from the 5-meter drop and it must withstand. So when they drop it out, because of the stress concentration in these corners and everything, it shattered. But other team, they went a little bit smart. You can see the structure. I'll cut the sound. You can see the robot is like a kind of, it can roll anywhere because it literally 3D printed one, and they printed it in a way that the internal structure is a really hard surface. Outer one is soft. So it means it can withstand any load it can. So they were able to drop from the 3 floors, but still the robot survived. With the internally electronic components also survived. So it is about a thinking process itself. You don't just design something and then just poorly deploy the AM process because you just wanted it to substitute something. You think about the AM process, what it can provide, and can you incorporate it in the design. Okay, so that is the key one. So these are the main essentials. We keep it out when we think about the design for AM, in the sense that we always think about additive manufacturing during the design phase itself. We don't do it only at the manufacturing or a prototyping phase. We always keep it in mind before you even generate concept. And then it all matters. Design for orientation, shape, everything matters, because you must have heard from the previous sessions that the orientation gives you the kind of the compressive strength or tensile strength, everything it affected by the orientation. So you need to know about the limitations offered by the additive manufacturing. As long as you understand the engineering understanding about it, you are good. So you can design for it. And always keep in mind that additive manufacturing is not going to solve everything. So you always keep in mind, can you hybridize? Can I bring in some of the good elements from the traditional manufacturing and merge it with additive manufacturing so I can have a best of the both world? And always empathize with the end user and use environment it's going to operate. That will provide you that, okay, how are you going to sterilize it out? Is it safe? Can you test it out? Wear and tear, abuse, any particle dislodgement if you are using like a powder-based systems. And what is the contact is it going to have in the user environment? What is the skill level someone is going to operate? So usability, human factors, everything will come into picture. So these are the things you need to keep in mind from the design thinking perspective, that what is additive manufacturing to bring it into the table. So of course, there are challenges and opportunities is available when we are talking about the digitalizations, as well as like additive manufacturing coming into the perspective there. So we all ask questions that, okay, how viable the product, whatever I mentioned earlier, I try to put it as a questions. Okay. So from the product perspective that, okay, how can I design an ideal functional part using additive manufacturing? Okay. Can I get certified with additive manufacturing? Why is it have a high failure rate? Can I repeat the same design again? Can I have the same mechanical properties of the things if I print the product, if I print the design again? Okay. So you ask these kind of questions during like the product phase and production phase in the sense that I mentioned to the prototyping phase where you are testing it out. Then you are bringing into the real manufacturing one. Real manufacturing, you should be able to mass manufacture it out. And can you have auditing trial, everything you need to show that way. Can you have an additive manufacturing factory? So these questions are still not answered fully. It is being answered by many people. So because a scalable design is very important, especially you are trying to mass manufacture it out. So the question comes in a way that how can we deliver a quality design for additive manufacturing parts on time in a scalable level? That is a bigger question we are asking now when we are thinking about additive manufacturing for our medical purposes. So we wrote a couple of book chapters, and you feel free to, you'll be able to download them because both are like open access books. You should be able to download them. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the value proposition, the additive manufacturing brings it into the medical device community for us is like it is a faster, And also like we can repeat it again when we are reframing the problem. And the complexity of the devices is also provides opportunity. And then of course, as long as we work within our considerations, we'll be able to provide a cost-effective and customizable solution and on-time delivery about. Okay, so whatever we are looking about the additive manufacturing, we always ask about it like what are we designing it for? So that is where the customer has a very specific product application in mind. So what are we designing it for? And then why are we designing for? Is it a value proposition? How you have it? Is it a money? Is it a price? Or is it something the user wants it? Okay, what are the compromises are we going to make it out? Because it is not going to be always a perfect solution. Yes. So what is a compromise? Is it okay to make that such a compromise? Can we make a decision based on the knowledge which is we have as of now from the process characteristics? And then who is going to be using it out? Where this is going to be used? If you look at like this is the 5 W's you are looking at: what, why, when, who, and where. So you brought down all the design elements into that one when we are questioning about additive manufacturing here. So the key takeaway here is about commercialization is a necessary step to reach the patients. So you always think about the innovations, not inventions. So the foundation of every innovation is shaped from the good clinical need. So you always look beyond the technical problem to find a good need. So apply the commercialization factors very early stage of the design process itself, so that when you are conceptualizing the solutions, you are already developing the business plan along the way. So you know the market. And then winning design, it's not necessarily just to overcome the technical challenges. It's not like, wow, it works so good. No, it's not about it. It also has to overcome the commercial hurdle to reach the market or someone else will be using it out. So that is where you bring the value to the market. Okay, so some of the references, these are good books to kickstart if you are looking into medical device designs and design thinking for it. These are the books which are, I would recommend the first book, that is one of the best books, is written by Stanford professors. That's awesome book about the biodesign process. They customize the design thinking for healthcare. You can look it up. This is an awesome book to go through. These other 2 books will explain you a lot of examples. So you don't just go with the theory, but you will also go with the examples. It will help you to understand, to dig deep into and perspectives. You can. Okay, so that is where I end the session. Okay, thank you. You are feel free to reach out to me, and LinkedIn is my profile is a public profile, so you'll be able to connect with me there, or you can email me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, participants, if you have any query, you can ask. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. Sir, can AM can be used for degradable materials?
Yes, additive manufacturing, because people are using it out. We have a company here in Singapore, it's called Osteopore. The company, they use additive manufacturing based bone replacement ones, so that the seeded bone, it can grow in it. So they kind of develop scaffolds which degrade itself, so they can implant it out. They already have a commercial product in the market. But the main challenge comes from the perspective that, can they withstand structurally? That is the question. They are still answering it out. So for long bones, they have a problem, but smaller bones, they were able to develop it out. So they have that one. For a biodegradable material, they were able to apply, and they have a successful product in the commercially they have it. Yeah.
Yeah, participants, you can post your query in chat box also. What is difference between innovation and invention, sir? You mentioned earlier.
So invention is about no one has done the things before. Okay, so it is a kind of like a science or technology which no one has done before. But innovation comes into the things that there is something is already there. You are doing it much better. You are providing significant value to it. So for example, so the wireless technology was there for a while, yes, but you bring it into the cell phone. That is an innovation, yes. So everyone is talking about like, okay, we have a computers and we can use the Wi-Fi's and everything, but bringing it to the phone, that is another one. Yes. And then computers, we all had like a huge computers, and bringing it into a cell phone as a kind of like a small level computer, that is an innovation. Yes. Because people had cell phones before, but you brought a better way to do that one. Yes. So you can think about that way. Invention, sometimes invention is very costly, because you'll discover something, but you never found any application for the particular invention. But innovation always comes with an application, or it is always driven by a need, which someone asked for it. Okay, I have a problem. Can you give me something? So that time the innovation comes, because you look into any existing science, you look into the technology, you find it, and then you kind of like a frame it, you provide the user experience along with it. That is where the innovation comes into picture. Okay, so because innovation is not just about the product alone, it is also the experience what it comes with it. So the user experience,
it is more useful for society.
yes, because invention, you don't have people in it.
Yeah.
Innovation, you have people in the loop. That's where it comes into, so it is always the moment you bring it to the community, that is where the innovation comes into, kickstarts it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
Definitely.
This session was very interesting and wonderful. You have nicely explained different design aspect of healthcare innovation, and also shown a case study of design of prosthetic hand to make the human life comfortable. I'm sure that all the participants would have been benefited by this session. And so I would like to thank all the participants for taking joining and attending this session with lot of patience. So thank you all. Thank you all again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Okay. So, okay. Have a great day. Okay. So bye. Bye.
Bye.